Hi, everybody. Do your money stories drive your investing? Well, let's take a look. Let's talk about that a little bit. Let's start off with the idea that your portfolio does not equal your strategy. Why would I say that, or why might you notice that? Well, your portfolio is probably a collection of different reasons for the different holdings that you have, and maybe there's some strategy behind it. Maybe there is a couple of holdings or a bunch of holdings that are a result of needing to buy something in particular or for a certain reason. Or what you don't see is the holdings that you have sold, and maybe you sold those for a certain reason or out of the idea I just can't hold these given what's going on in the market or given what's going on with this position. And so I don't want to imply that this makes you bad as an investor. Some very successful people have that kind of approach. But it's just, and it's not unique to you. It's just the way that we operate until we take a more structural or systematic approach. But let's first talk about how does this whole process get started? Well, it actually gets started when you were young, like really young, like grade school young. Maybe you remember at a very young age your parents fighting about money to pay bills, or you feel like you never got anything you wanted because there was never enough money. Or at the other end, maybe you had everything you wanted, and if you wanted something, you were able to get it. So those impressions early in childhood form on our brain. Our brain is like wet cement when it's very young, and then over time it hardens. So the impressions develop into beliefs, which develop into patterns that get repeated. And then at some point in adulthood, we just say, well, that's just the way I am. And that can be. There are people who believe that their mind is like fixed cement. It's very firm. It's very concrete. But Carol Dweck wrote an interesting book about the idea of the fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. A growth mindset is more plastic and malleable, so you can make changes. So let's just take a look at a couple of examples and then talk about what to do about that. So if you know anybody, or maybe it's you, that has all their investments in CDs or money markets and or treasuries, they really decided to take risk out of the equation. They're operating from a scarcity mindset. They're investing that way. And they are eliminating risk, or a lot of risk, maybe not as much as they think, but in any case, in the process of eliminating that risk, they believe that they're going to avoid scarcity in the future, but what they're doing in part is experiencing scarcity in the moment. Another example, so the gambler, you know anybody who is into cryptos or has been into cryptos or is into options or penny stocks, things that move all over the place, and it's very exciting because the wins can be huge and the losses can be huge as well. So this kind of person has a story that plain old investing is really boring. Stocks and large cap stocks and bonds, it's just that nothing happens there. They need some kind of stimulation. So they get it through their investing. Now, these approaches, I'm just going to go through two, and they're relatively common. They have some costs. So what are the costs? This cost for the scarcity investor is that their portfolio is going to cause them or have them need to work for several more years or many more years than they would have if they had been able to expose it to a little bit more risk over time. Now, the gambler, on the other hand, their risk, their cost is stability. They have no stability as they're going through life and getting towards retirement. And they also, the real cost is that they might blow up. They may have blown up in the past, but blowing up right before, in the 5 to 10 years before retirement, can be very costly. So, well, what do we do about this? Well, the first thing to do is to be aware that we have money stories and that they may affect our investing, or maybe that they control our investing. That's the first step. The trick is to recognize them, because often they kick in so subtly and so quickly that we don't even notice. That something happens in the market and we start thinking, I need to do this. And that's probably when some story has kicked off. So if you feel the sudden urge to act, that's a sign to take a moment and just notice, well, why is this going on? What am I feeling? Why am I feeling this way? Where is this coming from? And in that moment of awareness and inquiry, you create a little space to take a moment and ask a question if this is the kind of thing you want to be doing right now. So that is helpful. Now, sometimes that awareness is not enough to actually shift your decision. You become aware of it, and it's like, okay, I still feel this way. I need to do this certain thing this certain way. So when awareness is not enough, then it's helpful to add some structure. So I talk a lot about the systematic approach, a set of rules to guide when to buy, what to buy, how much to buy, when to hold, how long to hold, when to sell, how much to sell. It provides guidance for all of those steps of the investing process. Now, this doesn't eliminate or remove the emotions, but it gives you some guidance while you're experiencing the emotions. I can give a quick personal example. Last fall, this fall of 2025, gold did very well, had quite the run up, and I had a trading position and I had an investment position. And in late January, volatility kicked up, so my trading position got the exit rule. It got out, so I was very happy. It was the nice gain, but the investment system said stay in gold. Very uncomfortable doing that. I could see the what happens, when it goes vertical and then it's going to crash. And in spite of me believing that, and in spite of me taking the gain on the trade, I stayed in. Why? Because I am someone who is a systematic investor. I follow the rules. Even if I think I know better, the system has a track record, and that track record is better than my personal opinions about what's going to happen. So I talk about this because I think this matters a lot right now. The next 50, I am loath to make predictions, prognostications, but I will say this. I'm pretty comfortable saying this. I don't think the next 10 to 15 years are going to be a repeat of the last 10 to 15 years. If inflation's kicking in, if we've got fiscal pressures, if we've got geopolitical instability around the globe, we might be looking at a period of more volatility. And I've talked about this before, a decade of secular volatility. So stress tends to kick these stories off, as I mentioned before, and without a structure, without a system to follow, your stories probably have more sway over running your portfolio than your strategy does. Okay, so the question, or I should say the questions are, first of all, are you aware of any stories that are helping you or hurting you as an investor? Do you have a process to help guide your investing? And that involves all aspects of it. What kind of investor do you want to become? And notice what kind of investor you are now, if there's a difference, and what that difference is. You can work on that difference over time. So, interesting topic. Nice talking with you about it. And I have to finish up here. I'm not a licensed financial advisor. None of this was meant as investment advice. It's purely educational service. My full disclaimers follow. Take care.